Well, who are we joined with? First off, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Tyson. I just helped start this WCA back in 2004.
So what was going through your mind in 2004? Everyone, a lot of people were interested in Rubik's Cubing, but what made you want to go a step further and create an organization?
So I learned to solve the Rubik's Cube, I think it was July 24th, 2003. My brother went to a summer camp and he learned how to solve the cube, came home and taught me. And in August of 2003, they held, Dan Gosby ran the World Championships in Toronto. But I'd only heard about cubing, I'd only known about cubing for a couple of weeks at that point, so I didn't, otherwise I would have gone to Toronto, it would have been really cool. So then I went back to college, I was a sophomore, and I was just thinking it'd be cool if we could do this more often, right? Because prior to 2003, the previous competition was the World Championships in Budapest in 1982. I'm like, do I really have to wait another 21 years for this? So I started getting the idea, maybe, hey, we should just host our own competitions. Maybe not everything has to be World Championships. Maybe we can just do stuff locally.
Right.
Another thing happened, which was on speedcubing.com, which was kind of the main website back in the day. You had unofficial records, and the first place guy was Thomas Templier from France. The second place was Shotaro Makisumi from Japan. But I went to Maki's website, and there's a video of him juggling 7 balls in front of a 24-hour fitness in Pasadena. And I was going to college in Pasadena, so I'm like, wait, no, this kid lives in the U.S. So I went to go find him because I wanted to see someone solve the cube really fast. So you'd never be able to do this, it's a random person just walking onto a high school campus, right? You couldn't do this today. But I found him in math club, in a math club, right? He solved the cube for me in 17 seconds, so I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to host a competition. And if this guy shows up, we're really legit. He's the best in the world right now.
Right.
So pretty much after that, it's mostly a logistics problem. Get a room, get a bunch of friends to help out, and that's how everything got started.
Awesome. So where was that first competition you organized?
The first competition was held at Caltech. Caltech's where I went to college. It's in Pasadena, and we held it in the student center. Just got a bunch of tables. I shelled out $200. For a college student, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I had to buy the stack mats.
Oh, right.
Oh, stack mats used to be $100 each.
Whew. Now they're around
20, 30, right? But the timer was integrated into the foam pad.
Right. So now you're not just buying the timer, you have to buy everything else, and it's $200.
Yeah, right. Oh, and then I had to buy the displays.
A lot of expenditures.
Yeah.
A lot of expenditures.
But we made it back, I made back some of the money on the registration fees, right?
We hope you've made back some of the money by then.
Yeah.
So, the first competition happens. It's a one-day competition, I'm assuming.
Yeah, one-day competition. I think it was just 3x3 speed solve. It was 26 people, maybe 2 or 3 rounds. And it took a while.
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were doing. So, I would scramble the cube, go do the timer, and call up someone. We would do this one at a time. Right, and then it wasn't until the second competition that I was like, wait. Oh, so it was me and a friend. My friend's name is Mithin, and he could solve a cube. It took him about a minute. So we would scramble the cube, call the person, take him to the timer, and repeat. And then we decided to hold another competition 3 months later, and I was like, wait, I should scramble all the cubes. I'm faster at scrambling the cubes than Mithin is, so why don't I scramble the few cubes? Right? And so that's how the scrambler was born. And then it wasn't until fall of 2006, 2007, where I was like, wait, what was the idea there? Yeah, it's before what would happen is the judge would bring the cube back and forth from the scramble table to the timing station. I was like, this is taking a lot of time, and the judges are complaining because they have to sit down and stand up all the time, right? It's fine if you're just standing, or fine if you're just sitting, but the switch is annoying.
Right.
And then it's why doesn't someone just bring you the cube? Why didn't someone just bring the cube to you? So then sometime, I think maybe January of 2007, the runner was born. And then once the runner was, I remember that competition, we finished 90 minutes ahead of schedule. We're like, why didn't we think of this, right? And so it's so much of what you see today happening, you have to imagine a world where we didn't know these things.
It wasn't obvious.
These things were not obvious.
It was not obvious, and it's so normalized. We go to competitions now. You know, who's judging, who's running, who's scrambling, and these were roles.
The idea of the left and right stage, right, where you have some competitors on one half, and the other competitors on the other half, that was not. That was like 2008. Because the solution there was like, well, I'm trying to find a competitor, but they're like wandering around everywhere. If I can isolate them to half of the stage, this will make my life easier. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we could ask endless questions about speed cubers solving, like the times they're solving at now, 2 seconds, 3 seconds,
People are
4
really
seconds.
fast, yeah.
That's a whole conversation we've had multiple times, but as for you creating the WCA, being the first person to start a lot of these conversations, I gotta ask, what are we doing now that we could be doing better, that we should, like, what did you do that we're not doing now? Or what are we doing that you never would have thought of that?
I'll say what I did not do, what you're still not doing now. The WCA has and continues to be a volunteer organization, and that's really good. But there's limitations to that. It becomes harder to make collaborations with outside organizations, with other types of, just different groups, right? If I look back over, my time in the WCA, there were certainly other factors in play. But I would have wished for better collaboration with Rubik back then. But it was really difficult because I'm like 19 years old. What do I know, right?
It's tough.
So I think that's probably, trying to think about those types of ideas will allow the WCA to move more strategically. But it really kind of gets to the core of how things are run, and I think that's a pretty long conversation.
Awesome. And do you have any final words for people trying to start something new?
I mean, someone's got to do it. That's what it was for me 20 years ago. I'm like, the difference between me and a lot of people is I'm like dumb enough to go actually do something. Not all the ideas are good, but some of them take off. So, if you want to see something happen, like you can't really wait for other people to do it.
You have to take action and do it yourself.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be large. Start super small. I never would have imagined we would have been here.
I don't think any one of us would have expected the WCA to grow into what it is now. That being said, thank you, Tyson Mao.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for having us. Or thanks for being here.
Oh, of
thanks
course.
for having me here. So we're gonna switch back. Thanks for this amazing interview. Nice to meet you. And cross that off my bucket list.